12 in mine and Tom Hill. I know, mate. 12. If I say 12, that's mad, right?
Yeah. It's Well, I remember when we started, it was like episode 1. It was all very exciting, and we weren't sure where it was going to go. But yeah, 12. I mean, it feels good, and I'm excited about this one. I mean, it's special, this one, isn't it?
Yeah. So tonight we've got something like what we believe is like really, really exciting. It's our first guest. So we're on with Mr. Tim Le Feuvre. Tim actually came through the same program that me and Tom did a little while back, and he's an awesome guy, a top coach, and a handsome devil as well. Tim, just give us a little.
I'm old.
No, never. Give us a little bit of an intro about you.
Okay, Tim. My name's Tim. Like Mike said, I've been through the same habit and behavior change coaching program, learning about habit and behavior change coaching as Tom and Mike. And we're all friends, and we've all been in group. Actually, Mike coached me in the internship, didn't you, Mike?
Yeah.
So it's Michael's fault then, is it? This is all Michael's fault.
Yes. Because Tim had enough with me, so he thought, I'll give him some money.
Hopefully Tim's watching this. Hopefully Tim's watching this. Tim's the guy that got it all started. So let's give Tim a shout out.
We've got to give him kudos, really, haven't we?
We do.
Haven't you, for Tim? I say this time and time again on my website and everything. It's all down to Tim, because if I hadn't seen that webinar, or was it a webinar or some sort of podcast with him and Ash Burley on PDT?
Yeah, PT distinction. Yeah,
PTD. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have never have met you guys, and I'd never have helped so many people with their issues, weight loss issues, and life issues, or whatever you want to call it. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Journey,
so just to give you a little bit of background, we come through the same program run by Tim Drummond, who was at the sort of head coach, with his business partner Phil. Two great guys, two great coaches, and this is probably why we love coaching so much. We were very lucky to have some great mentors, and it's probably, certainly speaking for myself and speaking for you guys, probably changed your lives. And now I feel like if you have that, you have to pass that on. I almost feel like it's a duty to pass on. Do you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, kind of the same. I remember that right when I first joined at the beginning. It was such a powerful little group. I don't know how many people were there, but it was, some of those kind of calls were hours long, weren't they? Like on a Thursday night. It was like it started at, I don't know.
Come on, it's tea time.
And I'd be like, I've got to go to bed soon. So, but it was I know what you mean, Michael. It's like you've seen the light, and you see how wow, I've been helped, and actually I can use those same tools to help others.
Yeah, nice. So like I said, guys, we always freestyle this, but we kind of have an idea of what we're going to do, but we pretty much freestyle. What we wanted to do is get Tim on today, because sometimes it's good to have a different perspective with a coach, see what conversations come up, and just go from there. So we were actually talking before we come on about stoicism. So Tim, do you want to just fill us in a little bit for maybe people that aren't too familiar with stoicism?
Yeah, well, stoicism is quite a difficult thing to explain. It encompasses a lot of ideas, philosophies, but what I get from stoicism is a sort of calmness. And I think, when I'm coaching my clients, I think that's what they need right at the beginning. Just like I was saying, like, calm the fuck down. Weight loss isn't as difficult as you make it out to be, or you think it is. So I think something that I introduced to my clients early on in my program, and it's just to really just lay down a couple of things, a couple of easy steps for them to follow or take away, sort of on those first couple of coaching calls, where they can go and do something that's not that difficult. Yeah, and I think it's all about keeping it simple, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, certainly the beginning, getting some, using that momentum, right? You're right. People come on and like, kind of, this is it, and I suppose it's similar to people in January kind of being all excited and kind of going at it hell for leather, and actually going, do you know what? Let's get some wins under our belt. Let's get some confidence. Let's learn some stuff, and let's kind of think, right, how is this going to help us long term?
Yeah. So one thing I get them to do is to do something called the stoicism triangle of happiness, which is just 3 simple steps or 3 simple things they have to think about. Number 1 is do everything in your life to live to your higher self. So in terms of weight loss, that's like eat properly, you know, most of the time, because I think it's like you don't overwhelm them with like you got to be like strict, okay? You know, 80-20 is a good thing to sort of build up to. It ain't gonna happen straight away, but you know, most of the time, live to your higher self. So eat well, you know.
Just quickly on that, Tim, if someone didn't know what their higher self was, or they're just not familiar with that term, what would that be? Because by the way, the reason I'm asking is I wouldn't have known until I become a coach. I'll be like, what are we talking about higher self? So
yeah,
just so that like people that are listening are familiar with that.
Higher self is like the best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Okay, so you go from being the person that you are now to someone you aspire to be, like maybe that fit, healthy, lean person that maybe you were in your 20s or 30s, and then life caught up with you and it slipped. And maybe you want to get back to that higher self physically, mentally, emotionally. Someone who always tries to do more, always tries to improve and be more, whether that's in health, fitness, relationship, business, whatever it is. Sort of, I sort of say it's almost like firing on all cylinders in life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get to that point where, and it's a lot of it is about visualization. So you got to visualize what that person is like.
What's your
maybe look,
Tim, what's your visualization? How? Because I've got a way, a bit of a sci-fi buff. I've got a way of visualizing it for myself. How do you visualize it?
I think you've got to do a lot of soul searching. You've got to do a bit of journaling. You know, get it out on paper.
Yeah.
Get your feelings out on paper. It's also about having a plan, isn't it? It's also about looking into the future and seeing what's possible, and having that, and having a bit of hope as well. I think hope's important, but aspiring to be better, I think, is the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
I always think about it's like if you're going to make a choice, if there's a choice coming up, like I don't know, I've come home from work and I'm tired. Do I have an apple or do I have a beer? It's like taking a second to say, what does my inner voice say? If it said, what's the right thing to do now? And generally your brain goes, this is what you probably, I'm using the word should be doing. And I feel like that's kind of your higher self tapping into it. And like I said, I'm a bit of a sci-fi buff. I like the idea of like the multiverse. I like films that involve like different. Michael's kind of rolling his eyes a bit, but I have like an idea.
No, I'm just thinking of like Inception. That was the first thing I thought of. Yeah.
I have like an idea about this. There's like unlimited versions of us somewhere, and somewhere over here, kind of on my left, is like the guy that's doing all the bad shit. And he's in a state and he's knackered and he's 42 and he probably looks about 62. And somewhere over there is Tom, is perfect Tom, who's doing everything well. And it's a matter of kind of how can I tap into what he would do over there a little bit more, and maybe avoid that guy over there. And that's that visualization works for me. And I kind of try and find a way of a similar thing working for the guys I work with. Yeah. Does that sound crazy? Does it sound mad, do I?
No, it makes sense. I think it makes sense. And so, you know, you might get someone listening to this, Tim, and they might be saying, yeah, but I just need diet plan. I just need the exercise plan. Like, what would you say to them? Because I'm like, to me, this sounds like all like mindset work. And we probably all agree that that's the most powerful thing we all need to work on. So why do you think it's so important to have that vision of your higher self to move forwards?
I think it's because that is a thing that's going to drive you forward.
Nice.
You know, diet plan is not going to really drive you forward. You know, a vision of hope of what you can achieve, you know, a positive vision of what's possible, you'll be drawn more to that. And in times when you feel like giving up, you can reflect on that, and that'll help keep you going. Does that make sense?
100%. I would look at that and feel like you want to feel like you're inspired to move towards something.
Exactly. Yeah.
A diet plan's not exactly inspiring.
Yeah. Rather than like the other thing is like negative. It's negative motivation and positive motivation that you a lot, and I bet you get a lot of people come to you to start with who they're motivated by what they don't want, rather than looking to the future and imagining something that they can have that's better than what they've got now.
That can be tricky, though, can't it? Imagining, kind of actually visualizing and feeling that potential.
Yeah,
I think it's easier.
Work. It does take work.
I think it's easier to focus on what you don't want than what you do want. You could probably have someone list 5 to 10 things really quickly of things they don't want. But if you ask them to flip it and say, okay, so what do you want?
Yeah,
that's a harder question to answer. And I think
because people don't know what they want, do they? They don't,
and they don't think about it.
No.
I suppose we're not taught it, are we? We're not. I would say if I think about my growing up and my inspiration, I wasn't a great amount at school. I remember things like careers advisors being fairly ropey back in the kind of 90s, and I remember a lot of people saying,
"Gropey, you're gropey then."
No, gropey. No, that was the 80s. Was gropey. This is 90s. And I remember a lot of being told to be realistic, and I suppose so. Maybe years of being.
I think at a young age you get told you can probably be anything, and then what happens is you get older, belief shifts happen because you get lots of people telling you there's certain things you can't do.
Yeah.
So you grow up with that sort of, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. So you've had that belief sort of pushed into you. Because children believe they can be anything and do anything. And they get a new pair of trainers and they're fastest run in the world, aren't they? Like it's amazing. These new trainers on, they're the fastest. So I think that's interesting. So what was that other thing you mentioned? Looking at what was it, Tim? What makes you happy at first, or that higher self and that vision?
That higher self, and I suppose it's all tied up with what inspires you, what motivates you, isn't it? To achieve or to get to the point where you just do what you have to do to get where you want to get to. So that's higher self is being inspired by what is possible, I suppose. Or does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of being inspired by yourself, being inspired by
possibilities of, being in a different place than I am now. Because, like I said, people come to us almost like from a place of fear, or maybe they've got health issues, and maybe they want to lose weight because they don't want to die. Yeah, but then it's about turning that around to make them realize that that's okay for a bit to be motivated by fear, but then you got to long term you've got to have positive aspirations. You've got to be inspired by something more than that. Yeah, because you can't keep going. You can't lose weight and keep it off necessarily by just being inspired by fear. I think that's a negative. So you need those positive visualization, like we were saying, imagining what's possible, being that higher self version of yourself, that fitter, healthier, more present with your family and partner.
So what tools do you use to get your guys to feel that and be able to visualize?
Okay, so the next part is so there's 3 parts. Is do everything you can do to live up to your higher self, and then it's a triangle. So left hand side, as you look at it, is live up to your higher self. Right bottom is don't focus on the things that you can't control.
Nice.
Rather focus on the things that you can control.
Yeah.
So it's very easy. A lot of that stuff, like the news and things, isn't it? That's you can get
exactly.
So
that can cause negative feedback on it. You know, if you're
anxiety,
always,
all these
exactly.
things that can get drawn into us, the more we feed them, I believe.
Yeah. So you get a client that comes to you and you say, well, what's blocking you from losing weight? This is limiting beliefs, isn't it? And it's turning into what we were saying we might talk about is myths. Okay. So what's blocking you from losing weight? Oh, I haven't got time, or I don't like the gym, or I haven't got a gym membership. You know,
it hasn't worked in the past.
It hasn't worked in the past. I can't lose weight. You know, so it's getting them to think that, well, let's just focus on what you can do rather than what you think you can't do. So it's more, again, it's getting them into that positive.
Have you got any examples you could share without names and things? Any kind of good examples that might kind of resonate with people?
Just about everybody that comes to me says they haven't got time to lose weight. Can't really.
Do you think that's him? Do you think that's a bit of a protection mechanism that they don't necessarily recognize? That subconscious thought comes out because of all the previous experiences, they've not been able to do it, and then to protect yourself from saying it's not. I don't believe I can lose weight, and we all know that's bullshit, basically, don't we?
Yeah, but then you know, whatever they think, you know, it's that saying, you know, if you think you're right or wrong, you're right.
Yeah.
You know, there's no right or wrong.
It's the Henry Ford quote, isn't it? Whether you think you can or you can't, either way.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So
sorry, that's to interject. They do believe that. That's their belief.
They do believe that. Yes, and maybe that's what's keeping them stuck. So it's just about. The triangle is great because it gives you three things to focus on. So live to higher self. Don't focus on what you can't control, but just do something. Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, oh, I can't. I haven't got time to exercise. Well, what time do you have? Because they're thinking, oh, I need more time to exercise. So I haven't got that time, so I'm not going to do anything at all. So it's about, well, what can you do? Can you go for a walk at lunchtime, or start off slow and then build it up? Or can you do 10 press-ups, or, anything's better than nothing type of thing, isn't it?
10 squats whilst the kettle's boiling.
Yeah. I had that recently with a client who he actually enjoys exercise, and he's got his own little home gym and he enjoys doing it. He's got like a set kind of 45 minutes to an hour set workout, which he loves doing. And we went for a stage of him not doing it because he didn't have time to fit that exact thing in.
Yeah.
And it was like, what? Okay, could we do less? He's like, well, I'm not sure I want to do less. And I said, well, how do you feel about not doing anything? Well, I feel a bit shit. Okay, so like, what do you want to do about this? You can carry on kind of feeling shit because you haven't done anything, or we could just get it down and say, what can we fit in at this point? And we did, and we fit stuff in. And actually, in the end, he got up a little bit earlier. And I didn't tell him to. He got a little bit early and actually did his full workout. So I suppose it is that we have a belief that we can't do something, and it's like our brains don't make sense, do they? I mean, that doesn't make sense, does it? I'm not going to do anything, and I feel shit when I do nothing. So I'm going to do nothing because I can't fit in the exact perfect thing that I want to fit in.
Yeah, and I think it's what Mike was saying. Our brains are wired to protect ourselves, aren't they? It's like looking into the conscious and the subconscious, and the subconscious is where all the dreams and aspirations, and also like negative thoughts sometimes, it's powerful. Yeah. I think so we need the conscious side of the brain to just direct it, to do the planning and do your schedule for the week, so then you can tap into the subconscious, that real powerful tool that you have. I think the two work together.
To
reach goals, isn't it, really?
I agree.
Is that a bit deep?
No, I think it depends where you are. You might come onto this and listen to us guys tonight, and you might have done some reading around subconscious and mindset and stoicism, all these things. I think there's like levels, isn't there? If you've never thought about mindset and visualization, you might come on and think, well, I'm not entirely sure, but then maybe you get a little nugget that you want to learn more about. The same as probably we have done. We've probably developed from learning more, not just through a coaching program, but the books we've read, and I think I always see it like you open Pandora's box in the self-development, you can't really close it, so I think everyone will come on at different levels on this call. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like it makes sense to different people. But just on that, I think we go through a lot of our life because we're always so busy, just subconsciously making decisions all the time, probably 90% of the time. And it's until we take the time to slow down, to reflect and really think about, like what you talked about right at the beginning, Tim, what do we actually want? Yeah, what do we actually want? Is that like most people probably never ask themselves that question. So then how can you have a vision of where you want to move towards?
No. That can be hard though. So going back to the work in the program, I remember doing the perfect day thing, where I'm kind of trying to visualize this perfect day in the future, which probably won't exist, but it was a vision, and it took me months to actually write it properly and feel it. Literally months. And every morning I'd get up and I'd do my little 10 minutes, and I'd go through the motions of reading it and not connecting with it and thinking, well, what is the point of this? And then it was just one day kind of clicked, and then I wrote this big long story, and I could feel it, but it took me a long time to actually get to that. So that was a surprise for me, because I thought I'll just write down what I want in my life, but I couldn't do it
because you needed time to get to the place where you were really feeling it emotionally, didn't you? And that's hard. I found that difficult.
I had to say I'd written in my original bit that my children were still the same age as they were now in 5 years' time. So I'd written that as them, so that I was going to give them cuddles in bed and read them stories. And there was a real sadness that actually, if I've got a vision of 5 years in the future, I had to say goodbye in that moment to my children, because they were going to be teenagers and they won't want cuddles from me. And I can feel it. It even feels a bit sad now thinking about it. Yeah. But how can I have a vision of the future that involves that? I can't. So how can I connect with it?
Interesting. So that might be something a little bit deeper for people on this call and this live going. That's the power of the mind, though, isn't it? That was obviously something blocking you from writing that and completing it and connecting with it every day, and that can be happening in weight loss, but you wouldn't be aware of it. You just be like, oh, I can't lose weight, or I'm putting time or priorities in front of it. That's your obstacles. So identifying your obstacles, I think that's what you're talking about as well, Tim. Like identifying what are those limiting beliefs, what are those obstacles.
Yeah, and I think with the with focusing on what you can control rather than what you can't. I think asking more questions, why? Why is something, like, why can't I exercise, or why haven't I got time to exercise? I think maybe sometimes it goes a little bit deeper than just you haven't got time, or there's something behind that, isn't there? Like maybe you don't believe that you can do it in the first place. So what is the point of doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I used to
sort of feelings,
at school, I was not very good at. Well, I considered myself not very sporty. Whether that was true or not, I don't know. So I used to hate cross country. So I grew up thinking that I didn't like to exercise. I don't know where that came from. It was only when I was, so how old was I? I did a tough. We came for a Tough Mudder when I was about 30 in my 30s. It was only at that point we've lost him.
We've lost him. I'm sure, guys. I'm sure he'll be back in a second. Maybe his laptop isn't charged.
Exactly. It was only at that point that I realized actually I quite enjoyed exercise and I was quite good at it.
Yeah,
so I had this belief.
Yeah, of course. And these things can absolutely start at a young age. So it could be as simple as, like, everyone had to do PE. There might be a certain sport that you're not that great at, because everyone has different levels, and sometimes you get a little bit better. But then imagine you start this sport for the first time, and your teacher maybe puts you in the bottom set and you're feeling a bit rubbish about yourself, and then you go home and you try and play catch with your dad, and your dad goes, oh, you're useless at catching. suddenly you've had those two things that happen to you in quick succession. You've not done well at the new sports school. Your dad's told you you're not very good at catching. He doesn't mean it, by the way. He just might just be a comment because, you know, just comments can happen. And then suddenly you tell yourself you're not good at sports.
Yes.
But you're not good at sports. Just that time, you know, you didn't happen to be. You know, you could, who knows, in the future could have been one of the best persons at sports. I think we got Tim back.
He's coming back. Hey.
He's here, but you'll hear Tim, but we can't see you. I think he'll be on soon. So yeah, I think beliefs are really, really powerful, and like Tim said,
isn't it? It's like so powerful. It's a bit like and a good example I like is finishing my plate of food. Which something I was told a million times.
Right?
I dropped off. Sorry.
It's all right. So I was told a million times by my parents, and it was important that I'd finish my meal. So now, even now, if I have a plate of food, I will find it. It is a mental. I have to work mentally, not too hard, to not finish my plate of food, even though I'm totally full.
Oh,
that's not. I don't need that. I don't need that food, but it is so ingrained in me, and that's the power of the mind. It's the power that's subconscious.
So a lot of it goes back to childhood, doesn't it? A lot of those habits and a lot of, you know, your beliefs and the way you were brought up and what your parents told you. Yeah.
100%. And I just said, as you dropped off, you know, like Tom had that belief that he wasn't good at sports for whatever reason, and that can happen. You know, you can just, like I was saying to Tom while she weren't on, you know, you could have a new activity in PE and you're not that great at it the first time, then you go and play catch with your dad and you drop a few and your dad goes, oh, you're not very good at catch. Suddenly you've had those two things happen to you and you think you're not good at sports, whereas you could actually be really good at sports. It's just those two things happen close together. Your dad saying you're not very good, not being very good at the school one, and then suddenly you're like, I'm not good at sports, so I won't try all the other things. You know, and it's not just sports. You get it in maths, English, all these things. You know, so it's in the influence an adult potentially has on a child's life of what they say is really, huge. Yeah, huge. And look, what we always like to do, Tim, is we like to give people specifics or a couple of things to go away and actually like practice that will help them move forward. If you was going to give people listening something to go away and work on, what would you recommend for them?
I didn't finish the triangle, so that might be something.
Yes, cool.
So the last point is...
Did we get a link on the call afterwards as well? Is there a link that we can send so they can do like maybe a bit of homework or read up on it?
I could put something together.
Do you have a model or like something like that?
All I've done is just I just created a something on Canva. Just stick it in the comments. Yeah.
Comments.
Yeah. So the last thing was like take responsibility.
Nice.
So just take responsibility. Just do what you have to do. You know, and stop making excuses. Because I think a lot of the time we just make excuses, like we were saying before, for things that we believe that we can't do.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we just, because going back to the, you know, the subconscious conscious, it's like we don't want to go out of our comfort zone, so we just say we can't do it. We make an excuse. Yeah.
But like Michael said, it's protection, isn't it?
It's protection, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
And I think as well, like if you are blaming, and we talked about this last week, didn't we, Tom, about 9 times out of 10, the problem is a person problem. You can blame external factors and things can happen, but most of the time it's the things that you're not doing and, you know, limiting beliefs, all these things. It's a personal problem. I think if you're always in, I call it like victim mode, blaming external factors, you're not accepting responsibility, and you're also giving away your power. It's your responsibility to figure it out and do it, not give away your power to the external factors, because it's not them. You want to keep your power and be like, no, I'm responsible for whatever happens in my circle. You know, it's probably the best way to explain it.
Yeah, I think the triangle keeps you in control of everything. It keeps you in control of your actions, doesn't it, going forward? And you know, live to your higher self. Don't focus on what you can't control, and take responsibility. That's it. 3 things
Can't
you
argue.
got to focus
Can't
on.
argue with those 3 things, can you?
You can't. No, not really.
Tim is a wise man, and that is why he was our first guest.
I'm an old man.
Wise.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Anything you guys want to add? We normally say we aim for 20. It's never 20, so we've done half an hour. You know, anything you guys want to add on to this?
Yeah, if you're trying to lose weight, just be patient with yourself. You know, a lot of people like they want it now, don't they? And they want, and then when they don't get it, they beat themselves up, and then it all falls to pot. So, you know, think of it as a long-term journey rather than a sprint, you know, and just take your time and don't beat yourself up if things don't go your way, and go back to the triangle and just start again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all want it yesterday. It's just the way we live now.
Human nature, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, clients get so upset if they only lose a pound, and I'm like, if you lose a pound every week, that's 52 pounds in a year.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It'll make a huge difference to your life, and you know, you're probably not going to have to do anything too dramatic to lose that a week.
We've proved it with our clients, haven't we?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And time's a funny thing, isn't it? Because we think about the last year has gone like that, hasn't it? But the next year, is it? I have to wait until next year. It's the same. It's going to take the same length of time, the same gap. But like I've said, if you lose, I don't know, half a pound a week for the next year, you're going to feel fucking awesome in a year's time.
Yeah, but it's people's ability to look forward and imagine that and visualize that, like we're talking at the beginning, wasn't it? So that's what you got to tune into. You know, you got to tune in and look forward and be drawn to positive things rather than be motivated by the negative. You know, negative's all right to start with. And I watched. Did you watch Point Break, the tennis program? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen the because it's in 2 halves. I've seen the first half. That's
there's 5. There's about 5 episodes, but in episode 2, it was like Matteo Berrettini, and they were asking him, you know, what motivated, and they were finding out what motivated the athletes to succeed, because playing at that high level, it's like they have to be on their game all the time, otherwise they just don't. You know, they'll get beaten, they'll go down the rankings, and they don't earn any money, and that's it, isn't it? You know, and he said, fear motivates me. The fear of losing, yeah. Without fear, there's no will. That's okay. You know, that is what works for him. Yeah. In terms of weight loss, I don't think you know, you can be motivated by fear to start with, but then you have to look for other things to.
It's funny that guy motivated by fear. Eventually, he's going to get older and people are going to get better. And then what has he got?
Exactly.
Then that fear is realized, and then it's there. Bam.
Yeah. Whereas I wonder if you spoke to someone like Rafa Nadal or Roger Federer at the same age as Berrettini, I wonder what their motivation was. And I can guarantee it. Exactly. I reckon I can lay my hat on it. It wouldn't be fair.
It probably would have been something a bit more positive than that.
Grand Slam, basically, I want to be I want to be the best tennis player in the world.
So I'm sure that's why
Djokovic fought like that.
That's why Berrettini has only got to number 6 in the world. He's currently number 14 in the world. He dropped to 46 or something. So that's maybe where he's stuck where he is, because he's not.
Tim, he needs a coach. He needs to get on the phone to him.
You got to change your attitude, mate. You got to change the way you think. Like you say, you know, okay, cool, good.
Yeah, like again, like we could
you go on.
We could 100%. We could go into so many different avenues following this. But thank you, Tim, for being our first guest.
You're welcome.
So
I'll tell you.
Go on.
You should get the wild man on that. Get Taylor. There you go.
Get Taylor Thompson. Actually, you know what? This is quite. I've just had an idea. So I think every guest we get on gives almost like a tag team partner, recommends the next one. So you reckon Taylor Thompson's on next?
He's so interesting. He's more interesting than me.
Yeah, that's why Tim is such a nice guy. There you go. That's why nice guy Tim.
He goes hunting. Fuck me, really? That's it.
All right. Well, yeah. So I think that's what we should do from now on. From now, because I'm a big fan of Stephen Bartlett's podcast, and what he does is at the end of each episode, someone writes a question for the next guest that's going to come on. They don't know who the next guest is, so ours can be whatever the guest that we have on recommends the next guest that we host.
There you go. There's so many, isn't there?
Yeah, look, we know a few coaches, don't we? So
yeah.
Pleasure,
guys. Thanks for that. Yeah.
No, like I said, Tim, thank you very much for coming on, for being our first guest. To me, some absolute nuggets of gold, and I think that what we really like to do is we want to obviously give people things to take away and do. So I think it's good to have something to actually practice and go and do, but also we really want people to get thinking. You know, I want people to get like the brain going and thinking and visualizing and just questioning things a little bit. So we always like to think that hopefully people have taken some stuff that's really got them thinking. It's really important. I
think one takeaway people could take is when they think about something like, oh, I haven't got time. Ask yourself the question: is that really true?
Mm-hmm.
Is that really true? And maybe come up with some reasons why that's not true. And then it's just a myth, then, isn't it? There you are. I got the myth bit in.
Nice. All right. Look, cheers everyone that is obviously either watching the replay or tuned in live. As always, we appreciate any thoughts, any feedback, any questions, any requests. You know, if you want us to cover certain topics, we'll happily jump on. Once again, thank you for being our first guest.
You're welcome, man.
Thank you for having me. You know, maybe we'll get to 100 and you'll be on that one. You know, who knows where this could go? But we love doing this, and hopefully everyone gets a little.
I thoroughly enjoy it. Every time you come on, if it's there and I'm not doing something else, I always get on because you're great.
Thank you.
And it inspires me. I said that before. You inspire me to do more. Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Cheers, Tim. Cheers, Tom. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your weeks. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys. Bye.